How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Sane, and today we're going to be going over the Season 7 gun tier list for the ranked split that's happening. That happened earlier this week. Now that we're back on World's Edge, the gun meta changes a little bit. But really, we're just talking about what we've kind of seen develop in the meta recently, with all the ALGS and all of the ranked play, all the streamers, stuff like that. Seeing really how much the guns have been affected by the new character meta, such as Gibraltar running around. We'll get into some guns that are way more prominent now because of that certain character, and just other things like that. So we're going to get right into it. Let's start off with the first tier. I'm actually going to rename this D tier, or I'm going to rename this D tier F tier. F tier, the two pistols, the two, like, purposefully bad guns in the game. P2020 Mozambique. I'm not really going to talk about these things. They're purposely bad. This is without hammer point, of course. Like, with hammer point, they're much better. But without it, they're really just bad. They have like little to no damage. Next, let's just go straight into C tier. Now, C tier, I'm putting LA guns in C tier category for low time to kill. Basically, that's going to be kind of the theme of the list, or a theme of the guns in C tier. Now, Devotion with turbocharger. This thing can really shred like as it starts to get going, but that first startup time of it is just so slow that even something like, an alternator can out time to kill it just because of how long it takes for that startup, and you might be missing bullets early on too because the recoil is really bad on the gun. So if you find a Devotion, you don't have a turbocharger, drop that immediately for literally any other energy gun or just any other gun. It's really bad. It's just completely awful. Don't waste your time with this gun. Next on this list is going to be exactly the gun I just talked about. The alternator. I'm also going to put the RE45 here. These things kind of go hand in hand. They're both just like the little brother of the R99 and R301. You pick these up and you wait for an R301, an R99, a G7, something like that. They have decent. The RE45 has a pretty okay time to kill. The alternator has really easy to control recoil, so it's really easy to hit your shots with. They're both. Again, like at the very beginning of the game, you're probably gonna get a lot of kills with them because they're nice and they're easy to use and they're useful, and you're gonna find a lot of light ammo. But just as time goes on, comparing to any other gun, basically, especially the ones that it's in the same category as like the R99, the R301, they're just so underwhelming, and the time to kill is so small. There's no real use for them. Next up down here, I'm gonna talk about these two snipers together. I'm gonna talk about the longbow and the sentinel. The longbow and the sentinel are both just so heavily overshadowed by the triple take and the charge rifle and the G7, because the G7 is effectively a sniper rifle. They just take too long, basically, for the amount of damage they put out. Like, the longbow has a decent fire rate, and hitting 55 per shot, it's nice. I mean, 55 is enough to take down a Gibby gun shield, so that's a nice benefit to it, but it just takes so long, and if you ever miss a bullet, that's so much longer that your enemy has just to run away. And with a sniper, you want to be doing so much damage with the split second you have to hit them while they're standing still, or when you catch them off guard, or when they're in the open, something like that. And the Sentinel's kind of the same thing, even though it hits 70, which is great, and if you put Disruptor on it, you get 88, which is, again, really good damage, but it just takes too long to get the second shot out, that you really only get like the one poke, but you're not really doing enough damage to them. While with something like the G7, you're able to, spray them down as they go. Triple take, same thing, do a lot of damage. Charge rifle, you're hitting them for like 90, which is dumb. Those guns are just, these two guns are just so heavily overshadowed. Next, I'm going to put the Spitfire. I'm tempted to put the Spitfire below the snipers. I don't really know. The order of C tier doesn't really matter that much. I don't think the order of tiers matters too much, so I'll just leave the Spitfire here. This gun is a newcomer's best friend. You just hold down the trigger, go make yourself a sandwich, go kiss the wife and kids, go file your taxes, come back, and it's still shooting. That thing is just, its magazine is stupid size, but it's, since it's an LMG, you have such little ADS strafe movement. It doesn't have the best hip fire either, and it has such a low fire rate that time to kill is low. So if you're ever in like a gunfight, like face to face, you're gonna lose to every other gun in the game, pretty much. I mean, besides maybe the other guns in this category, the RE45 alternator, you might be able to beat those guns, but against a Volt, against a Flatline, against a 301, no, you're not winning that fight. You shouldn't be winning that fight. It's one niche use. It's really easy to control the recoil because of the fire rate, and the recoil is really not that bad. So you can put like a 3 times on it or 2 times on it and use it for like mid-range. But at that point, it's so significantly worse than the Hemlock, which is in the same ammo category. You can really just drop the Spitfire for a Hemlock and carry over the attachments. Or it's just a strictly worse R301. That the gun's only really useful spot is just so heavily overshadowed by these top tier guns. So yeah, Spitfire is not useful to you. If you're once you're past the kind of new beginner phase of the game, you should never be picking up the Spitfire. Let's see, is there anything else in C tier? I don't think so. I think that's gonna do it for C tier. I'm gonna do next up is B tier. B tier, I'm gonna put these guns which have a really fast time to kill, but are just not. They don't really make the. They're overshadowed by other guns for one reason or another. I'll kind of talk about the reason as we get there. Start with the L-Star. The L-Star I have to put above all of these C-tier guns because the time to kill is there. This thing can absolutely shred you. It does so much damage. But the huge issues with it is, one, the LMG movement speed. You know, while you're aimed down sights, you're hardly able to strafe at all. So it's basically like you're standing still. But if you're playing Gibraltar, you don't need to strafe at all. But yeah, the time to kill on this gun is just stupid fast. It can do so much damage. The overheat reload time is actually really fast. So like if you overheat, it's really not that bad. Even if you're not playing Rampart. The issue with it though is just it's the recoil is so hard to control. So you can't really use it at mid range. It's awkward to use it like mid range. You cannot use this thing at long range. It's atrocious long range. So you want to use it close range, but you're also like close range with a gun that you can't really strafe with, or like in the hip fire is not really great. And even when you aim down sights, the bullet like flame effect that it has is so bright that you lose your targets in there. There's just a lot going on. There's a lot of awkwardness with the gun. It's a really awkward gun, but like the time to kill is definitely there. So that's why it's going to be at least in B tier, but it's nowhere close to like A, S tier. It's not like a meta relevant gun. It's just a good gun. It's not the worst thing to have in your hands. Next, I'm going to talk about the hammer point guns, Mozambique and P2020. I'm going to put P2020 above Mozambique just because you're allowed to miss a few shots with the P2020. Like, time to kill is effectively the same. You're going to one-shot, two-shot, three-shot somebody with the Mozambique or the P2020 hammer point. And like if they only have health, the damage output is disgusting. It's outmatched by every other gun in the game. But if they have shields left, like the damage these guns do to shields is so pathetic. They literally go back to F tier. Like the hammer point guns are so weird because while they have shield, they're F tier, but when they don't have shields, they're like S tier. It's weird. And being only effective against like 50% of the HP, even less than that if they have a red Evo shield, or again if they're Gibraltar, who's got 50 health on his shield, just got an extra shield right there. Being only effective on not even half, I'm gonna say like 40% of the enemy's HP just doesn't make them good enough to really be like a top tier gun. It's like this really niche, awkward kind of thing. I guess the B tier category is just kind of awkward tier. Let's call it that. Let's call it the awkward tier. The last one that's going to be in B tier is the Havoc. Now, Havoc absolutely dumps. This thing does so much damage. It's got pretty easy to control recoil too. It's actually not that hard. Just go into firing range, get used to the pattern. You can use this thing. I've had a lot of success with it. Like with a 2 times or 3 times on an early game, I've been able to shred people. You know, if it's one of the first guns I get. The Havocs can be really, really nice. This is without turbocharger, of course. But it's just that it still has that charge up time, which is just a big issue. Same thing as it is for the Devotion. It's less with the Havoc because it's easier to negate with the Havoc. It's not as devastating with long charge time as it is, and you can you can at least like hit fire the Havoc and like kind of strafe back and forth while you're waiting for the charge time to come up. But yeah, it's not the hardest gun to control, and it does so much damage. But you still have to deal with that charge up time, which is just awkward to use. And I think that does it for all of the... Yeah, I think everything else on this list is definitely, like, a top tier gun. Yeah. Alright. A tier. A tier, A tier, A tier. Let's go. We've got the Eva. I'll do it one at a time. Yeah, we'll start with the Eva. The Eva is The shotgun you hold while you wait for a Mastiff, but the thing still does a lot of damage. You're hitting 40 to 60 damage reliably per bullet, and the main use of a shotgun is like that up close kind of finisher usually, or like that close range bubble fight. Now if you have an Eva and your opponent has a Mastiff, you're losing that 10 out of 10 times. Like there's no reason you should ever win that fight. But if they don't have a Mastiff, the Eva still is really, really strong up close and personal. Whether you have it just full auto or double tap. I'm not really going to put most of the attachments on there because some of them are kind of just preference or don't really affect the gun too much. But if you want to use Eva double tap, it's about as good too. It's basically like a Walmart brand Mastiff. You pump out twice, which can do it to like 126 damage. Which is a lot of damage, but it's also a lot less forgiving. So if you want to use Eva double tap, go for it. That's more of a preference thing. But the gun is really it's very solid. But again, once you find a Mastiff, you're dropping the Eva for the Mastiff, or else you're a fool. I'm telling you that now. Next up in A tier is going to be the Wingman. Now the Wingman, if you hit your shots with this thing, it is so good. If you miss your shots with this thing, it is like down here. Like if you miss your shots with the Wingman, you're gonna have a terrible time. If you can't hit your shots with the Wingman, don't pick up the gun. It's not like you miss it. It's not like you're really missing out. But if you're good with the gun, this gun's gonna serve you great. That's kind of how the Wingman always has been. It's always like if you can hit your shots, it's definitely gonna be very good for you. It could be an S tier. If people want to say the Wingman's an S tier gun, I'll never disagree with you. Yeah, it is. I like the Wingman a lot. It's an S tier gun in my mind. I'm just going to put it down here because it's not like the most necessary gun. It's not like you have to use the Wingman. No. If you don't want to use the Wingman, you don't have to use it. It's fine. Quick Draw and Skull Piercer hop-ups make it a little bit better. I don't think they make it so devastatingly better that they jump into S tier or anything. Again, the gun's just, if you hit your shots, you do so much damage. If you don't hit your shots, you're going to die. You suck. Then you're going to suck. So yeah, the Wingman, if you can hit your shots, definitely use it. It's such a good gun. Such a good gun. Next up in A tier is a gun that's been on a lot of people's minds recently, a lot of pro players' minds recently, is the Flatline. This thing, people have been kind of underrating this gun. Or not really underrating it, now they're kind of like, wait, this gun's really, really good. And this is another one that could totally be an S tier. A tier, S tier aren't really super far apart. I'm just going to put S tier. I'm going to kind of explain a little bit more of why they're S tier instead of A tier. The Flatline, this thing, the recoil on it is pretty hard to control, so mid-range can be a little awkward. You have to really get used to it. So using it like you would use like a 301 or a Hemlock isn't really how you want to use it. Use it more like an SMG. You hip fire this gun. It's got really good hip fire accuracy, and you kind of crouch spam and ADS strafe, and doing all that crazy movement in their face with the Flatline hip fire. And it does a lot of damage up close. Its time to kill is really good. Very easy to control, or not, very easy to manage your ammo, so you don't really have to run like as much ammo as you would like a 99 or something with a Flatline, just because it's not dumping out as much. You're not just like spraying as much bullets randomly. Yeah, up close, very, very, very good gun up close. Pretty okay mid-range. You have to really get used to the recoil. But if you were trying to use it mid-range, at that point, same thing as the Spitfire. Just use the Hemlock. The Hemlock's way better. That's really the only reason why it's down here in A tier. It's not quite as flexible as like the 301 is, because since its mid-range is a little bit lacking and its long range is again a little bit lacking. But close range, this thing's very, very good. Treat it like an SMG. And next up in A tier, let's see what I want to do. I'm going to talk about the Havoc. Havoc, I'm going to talk with Turbocharger, is a very similar thing to the Flatline, although, again, it's easier to control recoil-wise, so you can use it a lot better at mid-range. The only real issue with it is you have to find a Turbocharger, which is very rare to find. It's the rarest hop-up to find, and if you don't have it, you're kind of stuck with a B-tier gun. And plus, it's just overshadowed by two other guns. If you have a Turbocharger, you should be looking for a Devotion, realistically, because Devotion just is the fastest time to kill in the game. It's such a stupid gun. Or, if you're holding a Havoc, you're really going to be looking for a Volt, because the Volt is such a good, flexible, versatile, really, really strong gun in the meta right now. So it's kind of overshadowed twice there, which is the only reason why I have to keep it down here in A tier, and I can't justify putting it up in S tier. If there's two guns of the same ammo type that even use the hop up better than it, yeah, I can't put it up there. I can't justify putting it up there. And to top off A tier, I'm going to do the 2 sniper rifles. Charge rifle and triple take. This one is more, whichever one is better, is kind of more your preference. I think my playstyle kind of suits the triple take a little bit more than the charge rifle. But the charge rifle definitely has just so much more annoyance to it. These guns are the defensive playstyle. You're sitting back, you're just doing a lot of damage, you're leveling up your ego shield, you're poking people while they're running through an open field, you know, you're sitting on high ground. You're not like in people's face. You know, people really aren't shooting back at you with a sniper. You're just doing a crap ton of damage. These 2 guns, they do so much damage. Now at the end game, like at the very end of the game, you're gonna want to be dropping this gun. You know, find a loot box, find somebody's death box, and you want to drop the sniper for like a massive or something. Since the final circle is gonna be close range, these things won't serve you close range really well at all. Even the triple take, which has decent close range potential, like you're gonna want like an Eva or a Mastiff instead. Like eventually they drop off, which is kind of really the only reason I'm putting them down here in A tier instead of S tier. Is you don't really want to necessarily carry them into the final phase of the game. You want to drop them eventually for another gun. So that's gonna finish off the A tier. Now, every other gun. Let's get some of these out of the way. Every other gun on this list you're going to see is going to be S tier or even higher. And that is going to start out with the Devotion. I'm going to start with the Devotion. Devotion is so freaking fast. It shoots so freaking fast when you have a turbocharger on it. Turbo Devotion is the fastest time to kill in the game. The only downsides to it is it has very hard to control recoil, and you have LMG strafe, but like it doesn't matter because you kill people so fast. So the only real weakness of it is the recoil. So it can be a little awkward to use. I'm personally not a fan of the gun, so I never use the gun, and I don't think I'm really losing out that much because the gun meta is so balanced right now. But if you ever fight someone like a Gibby or a Caustic with Devotion and you're stuck in the gas, or just Gibby with Devotion is just such a scary fight. You just die immediately. This gun just kills you immediately. The only reason I'm putting it at the bottom of S tier is because if you don't have a turbocharger and you don't have like a good barrel stabilizer, then this thing just becomes either really hard to control or like worthless. Like you see it's down here, all the way down here in C tier. That's the only real reason I'm putting it all the way at the bottom of S tier. Again, if somebody said this is the best gun in the game, I would be like, yeah, it is. It is, but it just takes it's kind of expensive. Let's call it expensive. You need a good barrel stabilizer like a purple or a gold. You need the turbocharger, which is very rare to find. It's kind of like in a perfect world when you get a Devotion, it's super broken, but you don't really get it reliably all the time. So that's why I'm going to put it down at the bottom of S tier. Above that, I'm going to put the G7. This thing is the king of long range and mid range combat. This thing just is the king of poking. Gibraltar with the G7 is nasty. You're going to hear me say the word of Gibraltar a lot because he's kind of like the king of the meta right now. So if you're tired of hearing the word Gibraltar, sucks for you. He's good. But yeah, G7 is a really good gun. You slap it 3 times, slap it 2 to 4, whichever one you like. It is a sniper. It is literally just a sniper rifle, and it shoots so fast. The fire rate is so easy to manage your shots and hit your shots with. You can down people from super far away, unlike kind of the rest of the snipers. It's a little bit harder to down somebody with something like a charge rifle. Triple take's not quite as hard, but the G7, you can down people so easily, especially if you have 2 people on the team using G7s or something. Like you can just pick people off from so far away. It's so strong. Again, close range, it's not good at all. If you're like in a close quarters situation for the end of the game, you want to switch this thing out for an R9 or an R301, but you have like 2 choices to switch to, so that's kind of nice. But it's mid range and long range. It's just the king. It's the king of long range. It's the king or the queen of mid range. There's only one gun I could think might be better than it in mid range combat. It's just such a strong poking gun. Yeah, this thing is so good. Right above that, I'm going to put the R99. The R99 is really good at close range, but part of me was really tempted to put it down in A tier, actually, because this thing's time to kill is actually lower than the Havoc's, and is pretty much matched by the Flatline. And not only is it going up against those two, it's outdamaged by the Turbocharged Devotion and by the Volt and by the Prowler, and the 301 is more versatile than it, and it's going up against Mastiff. The R99's never had more challenge in its close range combat as it has this season with this meta. So that's the only reason I'm putting it so low in S tier. But this thing can just, you can one clip people with it if you hit your shots. It does so, it can do a lot of damage super fast. Its time to kill is super fast. So yeah, this gun, it's very good. It's very quick to use, very good handling speeds. You know, it's great on like your wraiths and your aggressive, your aggressive wraiths, your aggressive bloodhounds, stuff like that. Really good gun, really good close range spray gun. Super good. Right above that, I'm going to be putting its older brother and the most versatile light gun is the R301. The R301 is very good close range. It is super good mid range. It can work long range because it's got really good control recoil. You know, this thing, the kind of staple of the meta has become AR shotgun. You know, your R301 with the Mastiff has become like a super common thing. It's such a flexible loadout. It's such a flexible gun. You can use it for any playstyle you want. You can use it with any gun you want, really, too. It's just such a flexible, versatile gun with good damage, good recoil, good. It's so above average in every single category. It's super reliable gun. Really easy to use. Really rewarding too. Above that, we put the Volt. And the Volt is basically the same thing. It's the energy gun variant of the R301. It's super flexible. It has really good mid-range ability. It has like no recoil, and the energy bullets don't have drop off, so it's really easy and accurate for like mid range. It's got super good capability up close and personal. You know, with its great SMG strafing speed and really easy to control recoil. Good damage output. This thing rivals the R99 up close. It's just super flexible gun. You can use it with a shot. You can use it like an AR, or you can use it like an SMG. You know, it's really good. Whenever I have a Volt and I see a care pack, I'm like, wow, no matter what gun I pick up from the care package, I'm going to be able to keep this Volt and play any kind of play style. It's kind of the same thing as the 301, just super flexible, super versatile. Right above that is going to be the Hemlock, and the Hemlock is the one gun I would say is the actual king of mid-range combat above the G7. Its damage output is ridiculous. It can work long range, especially if you just turn it to single fire and just tap people from a distance. Its hip fire is so incredibly accurate, so its close range is actually very solid. And just burst, it can just do a lot of damage. Once you get used to hitting the 3 bullets and controlling the recoil, which the recoil is so pathetically easy. It's so easy to laser the gun, even with no barrel stabilizer. Just slap it 2 times, slap it 3 times, slap it 2 to 4. Use this thing for mid-range. Slap on a shotgun, you know. Hemlock Mastiff on a Gibraltar is probably the scariest thing to fight right now. I kind of said it was the Devo, but with the bubble fight meta going along and stuff like that, Hemlock Mastiff is such a strong, scary combo. Hemlock is such a strong, versatile gun. Definitely should be picking that gun up. And the gun I'm going to put at the very top of S tier is not necessarily the best gun in the game, but is definitely the most meta-defining gun in the game. I've been talking about Gibraltar all video. I've been talking about bubble fights all video. And how you bubble fight is you pick up a Mastiff, you go in close, you use the kind of the walls of the bubble, and just, because it's this little footsies game, and you just get up close and personal with the Mastiff, and this thing does 100 per pump, and you can squad wipe with it because it's a 2-shot. You can 2-shot people, and it's got 6 bullets in the barrel, I guess. I don't know what it's called. Yeah, I guess the barrel or the clip, whatever. You can squad wipe with the gun. It's just so strong. It's unrivaled up close. Even something like the Volt of the R99 is just going to lose to this gun when it 2-taps you up close. And it doesn't need a lot of ammo. It only needs 1 attachment as a shotgun bolt. The iron sights are fine. It literally only needs 1 attachment as a blue or purple shotgun bolt, 1 stack of shotgun ammo, and you've got a top-tier gun. It is so good. It is just, yeah. If you don't know the Mastiff's good, then you have not been playing Season 7. And the last 2, I'm just going to talk about the care package guns all together. I'm going to call them God tier. What? Yeah, they're going to be in their own little tier. Add row above, the God tier guns. If you find one of these guns in a care package and you don't take it, you're letting somebody else take it and they can just rob the game from you, because the Prowler is just super busted. the Peacekeeper is just super busted, so much damage, and the Kraber, if you ever get headshot by the Kraber, you're down immediately. So yeah, that's gonna do it for the video, guys. Thank you for tuning in. I hope this is informative to you. If there's some guns you're confused about their placements, let me know in the comments below. I'll get back to you with a little bit more detail. I know I didn't really talk about all the guns in super detail. So if you're confused about some placements, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Say like, hey, why is the G7 so good? Can you go a little bit more in depth on that? Feel free to comment that. I will do my best to try to explain it to you a little bit more. And again, these are guns talking about like when you're in 3-stack pred lobbies and you're competitive play. Like these are the guns you're gonna see like the pros using. You're not gonna really see pros touching these guns down here. Not really. They're looking for these S tier, these A tier guns, stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully this video was informative to you guys. Hopefully you guys like this content. Please feel free to like and subscribe. If you enjoy the content, help my channel grow a little bit. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I will do my best to get back to you guys as soon as I can. Thanks guys for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.